This is a PowerWorks podcast short with Gleenn Power and me, James Pikeway.
Stop or start, stop, whichever way you call it, on cars now is mostly fitted to everything. I think Porsche have it on GTS models. You know, it's on everything. The case study that we sort of based our training around, or had as cited in our training when we did this system in VW, was our average engine size turned out to be a 1.6 for the range in the UK. And any engine that was left running for 7 seconds of that size would use more fuel after 7 seconds if it had been turned off. So if you're going to turn the car off when you come to a stop, if it stays off for longer than 7 seconds, you've saved fuel. Because when you start it back up, you use a little bit of fuel to get it to start.
Yeah.
But if it had been running for 7 seconds, it would have used more.
Okay.
So there's that. Now, one of the problems with this is they come with expensive batteries. These systems don't just use normal batteries. They're usually absorbent glass matte, because starting a
I didn't know that. I just thought it was just turn it off, turn it on.
Starting a car with a liquid battery, starting a car makes the battery very hot. It uses a lot of power, 40, 50 amps typically. And that makes the battery acid hot, and it starts to evaporate. And it's very, very difficult for that battery to hold the electrolyte in there, because it's getting hot and it's evaporating out the breather. So they're normally AGM batteries. Now, side by side, they're double the price. They tend to last longer, and if you've got start-stop, you've also got battery monitoring. Battery monitoring means that it's constantly generating the right amount of power from the alternator for the battery, depending on how it's being used. So this adds extra weight to the car. I mean, weight doesn't make that much of a difference, but it does make sufficiently enough. If you were to say, if you look at it from a manufacturer's point of view, they're not interested in an individual car. There's certain things they have to meet for the individual car, but if you can save let's say you can save 10 kilos, but you're producing 1 million of those cars, that's 10 million kilos less weight to move around. That's a lot of fuel.
Yeah, for sure.
So as a manufacturer, that's the big picture that people sometimes forget. As an individual, you don't really notice the difference. You know, it's put a suitcase in and drive to the airport, forget your passport, go back, having left the suitcase at the airport, you're going to use the same amount of fuel, apart from you're going to be foot to the floor, but you're going to use, it's not that noticeable to the individual, but as a big picture view, then it is. Yeah. And that's where these things get broken down. So you've got to also remember that with start-stop, there are other components involved in it. Now, Peugeot, and it's spread to other manufacturers, did this weird thing where the alternator would turn backwards on itself to start the engine, rather than use the starter motor again, because it was less likely to fail, and maybe it was and maybe it wasn't, I don't know. Try not to work on them, but the starter motors are a little bit more heavy duty, and they are designed for this system, but there's only so much space in an engine bay, there's only so much space on an engine. These systems are adapted to existing technology rather than technology and engines built for these systems. Yeah. So there's always going to be failure points. And in cities where you're stopping and starting all the time, people turn it off because it's annoying. You sat at a set of traffic lights, creep into the lights for a kilometre. Every time you come to a complete stop, it turns off, but you need to move again. You release your phone. People turn it off. People always turn it off. And we've had customers that have been for a service and taken the car away and said, my car keeps cutting out, because they've turned it off, or they've not known because it was always off, and then or we fixed the problem that was causing it not to work, and then they what the hell is this? I don't want this. So we'll press that button and it'll turn it off. And those systems don't always work. So in a hot climate like ours, if you've got the AC on full and the cabin temperature you've requested is as low as possible, but the interior temperature is being detected at 25, 30 degrees, it won't turn it off, because it doesn't want the cabin to get too hot. And if you've also got that running, the battery's being drained, you've got all your systems going in the car, you've got 3 phones plugged in on charge, you've got the radio going, you've got kids in the back watching the screens. They've got iPods plugged in on charge. You've
It's never
also
gonna
got
turn
the
off.
AC on.
Yeah.
It's not going to work because it can't afford the battery to drain. So they're not foolproof. They're not great, and they are a little bit invasive, I suppose, to your driving experience. And a lot of people do turn them off, but they do work, providing you stop for longer than the time it takes on your engine, which it uses more fuel to start a 5-litre engine than it does to start a 1-litre engine, obviously. But it also takes less time to make that up by turning that engine off. So, as I say, I remember the figure for the 1.6, but I can't remember what it was for other engines, and if I was ever told. But they do work.